Thank you to Chris Franklin for these lyrics. The world has caught a virus, so I've written you a poem. We need your help to cure it, so stay the fuck at home. And if you have got 12 kids or you're living on your own, lock it down and isolate and stay the fuck at home. If you think you're not at risk here, you're living in a dome. It spreads faster than a hooker's leg, so stay the fuck at home. I need the gym, I need the beach, I hear you bitch and moan. You need to grow a brain cell and stay the fuck at home. But I feel fine, I don't feel sick. I'll go out on my own. How thick are you, you selfish prick? Please just stay the fuck at home. From LA through to Berlin, from Wuhan through to Rome, there's people dying every day, so stay the fuck at home. If you need to contact family, use Facebook, Skype, or phone. We've got the fucking internet, so stay the fuck at home. The only way to slow it down is isolate, not roam. Please help the world get back on track and stay the fuck at home. Stay the fuck at home, stay the fuck at home. Don't you be a fucking dick, please stay the fuck at home. Stay the fuck at home.
Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live here from NGC Studios here in South Florida. And no, we don't, old-timer. No, we don't need to stay at home. Not anymore. Things are starting to open up again. But hey, as long as you guys are at home, I'm glad to have you as a captive audience. So anyway, great to have you all here. Contact info as usual if you would like to reach out to me during the show. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @SMW_NDC, hashtag Whitfield Report. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Whitfield Report. You can follow me on Gab and Parler at Sam Whitfield, Facebook.com/The Whitfield Report. If you would like to, if any of you still use Facebook, please like the page. It actually does help. So go over there and like that. TheSamWhitfield.com. I keep saying I'm going to update that website, but who knows? I might not. And as always, I'll have the audio podcast up tomorrow. I always post the show the day after. So if you miss an episode and you want to listen to it on demand, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get your podcasts. And since YouTube is hiding my videos along with everyone else, the podcast is actually the best place to get the program right now. All right, folks, shout out to everyone in the chat as well. Let's see, we have Still Not Your Friend, Saucin, Linda, Apex Gamma, Shadow Beast Muscle, Evil Eric, Beer Can, Alan fucking Pal, Andy's Random Edits, and Fat Cake Boy and Lou. So welcome everyone. Tonight I'm going to have a very special guest, one that I've been chatting on and off with online for the past probably about a month now. My guest for tonight is Scorpio, who many of you guys know is the creator of the Owen Benjamin documentary, I guess the documentarian. So I'm going to bring him on Skype here, and we're going to be discussing how he got into documentary making in general. I wanted to ask him some behind the scenes stuff on Owen Benjamin and that documentary and just how he got pulled into that whole whirlwind. And then, we'll just shoot the breeze. This podcast is pretty casual. One thing I like to try and do is, be conversational. So that's going to be the show. And so I will now dial him. And yeah, let's connect with our good friend Scorpio here. If I can get this Skype window here. So, by the way, if you would like to donate to the show, if you're able to, streamlabs.com/Whitfield Report as well. And let's call Scorpio. Hey, man.
Hello, Sam.
Hey, what's up, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the Whitfield Report. So hope you're doing well tonight.
Oh yeah, man. It's good to finally hear from you.
Likewise. So first off, I guess my first question, just kind of diving into it, is how did you get into documentary making in the first place? Kind of just your background.
Well, as far as these the unauthorized grift series goes, I kind of just picked it up on a whim after a porcelain, bowed out. It was kind of like, I looked around for a while. When I first started thinking about doing something like this was right around the time he left. And I waited a few months, and I was going to see if anybody else was going to do something with it, and nobody ever did. So I finally figured, well, I might as well give it a shot. So that, I mean, other than that, I haven't done documentaries before. That's not really wasn't really my content before this.
Oh, really? So what other content have you done before? I'm not too familiar with your channel outside the documentaries.
It was basically like a blog type situation. I was a bit more political. Try to just stick along the lines of politics and current events, but over the course of this last year, I've really lost that flavor.
Yeah, I think you and I can both kind of relate to that. I mean, I was into politics too, and then within the last 2 years, kind of between the whole Owen debacle and all these grifters coming onto the scene that have, gotten exponentially more famous for just, grifting and causing chaos, it kind of is, disheartening. And I know that you and I have talked a bit about that in, various chat rooms, and whatnot. So having done a documentary now, is it something that you think you would do in the future, or, what were kind of your thoughts, as to why you wanted to make a documentary as opposed to just doing a series of streams?
I kind of had wanting to go in that route. I didn't plan on doing this type of subject matter. I was thinking more serious things, but somewhere along the line I got caught up in this, and like you said, it's interesting as hell. It's so damn funny, I guess. So I do plan on continuing. I've had a lot of fun doing this, so I'm gonna keep making these style of documentaries. I also got into somewhere along the way this whole locale documentary thing. It's seems to be a growing market, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing really until I started seeing Porcelain's documentary. I suppose he's kind of the godfather of a lot of these, document.
It seems to be an emerging field, I suppose.
Yeah.
But he's a big one. I like Toad McGinley. He does some good work. It's just people, what it might be is these grifters are on their, up on their pedestals, and people just like to see him get knocked down. So it has a lot of appeal.
Yeah. Well, definitely, and I think also the fact that they take themselves so seriously, particularly in Teddy Spaghetti's case, he just the thing that slays me about Teddy Spaghetti is that he's so narcissistic. At least my interpretation of him is he's so narcissistic that he actually seems to think that people take him. Like, at this point, he's believing his own BS, whereas, before I think he maybe was conning people, but now he has conned himself maybe into, believing some of his own malarkey. So
That's true, man. That's he's out there. He's one of the worst, I think.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Vox Day has been grifting for quite a while. I mean, when I first heard about him, I think I was still in high school, like back in 2012, and I remember, with him, that was around the time he was starting his first comic in print. This was way before I had even heard of Owen or anyone like that. Someone like sent me one of his comic books or something, and I'm like, this guy is kind of a mediocre writer at best, and how is he selling these things? And then once kind of the, I guess, alternative news slash Trump phenomenon started, he jumped on that and became mega famous. But it doesn't really change the fact that he's a mediocre writer, and from there he saddled up to Owen after Owen went crazy, and yeah, so it's actually pretty impressive how long he has managed to grift.
Yeah, well, he's got he's got that big war chest his daddy left him, so he can grift along, start any project he wants on the internet, and he's never going to run out of steam.
Yeah. Now, with that, going into kind of the Teddy Spaghetti documentary, I mean, how did you even know where to start with Vox Day? Because
what started me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because I mean, when I looked into him, everything was kind of scattered. I couldn't really build a timeline. So props to you, for going back and doing all that monotonous research into him.
Well, thank you, man. What started me with Vox was it was right around the time when what was going on. I think right around the time the supposed swatting happened with Owen, and he kept bringing up that story about the crippled kid, about having the crippled kid arrested.
Yeah.
And I about it, and the story didn't make sense to me, so I started looking into that. And really, that's what got me to say, hey, you know what? There's a very interesting story here. So I started digging into that a bit, and it wasn't hard. It was the guy, the crippled kid, was very easy to track down. But I tracked him down, and I started talking to him, and from the horse's mouth, he let me know that the whole story was BS. So I thought, man, this story is too good to let go. So I kind of built the story, upon that this man is. I mean, it's obvious he's full of lies, but I don't think until that point it was just clear how big of a liar he was.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's interesting too, because Owen actually harassed like an actual crippled stand-up comedian. Well, I guess technically they're called sit-down comedians, but and Porson's documentary actually covered this. But Owen was actually harassing a crippled comedian who roasted him online like 2 years ago. This was around the time that Johnny Arcade and myself and the other people left the group. But Owen had harassed a crippled comedian who had merely made a joke about, how even he got more gigs at that point than Owen, and Owen sent the bear mob after this guy, and they attacked him simply by making like really bad handicap jokes.
Oh yeah.
So, but I guess a few of them were like even making like death threats, and that's the scary thing about Owen's cult is I don't think he fully knows either let me rephrase this. Either Owen knows completely what is going on in his cult, or he doesn't care, or he's just completely oblivious to what people do, and so the people that make death threats are doing it in Owen's name, and he is oblivious to it.
I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of both. He doesn't know, or he doesn't care. But you know how Owen is. He micromanages all this social media. I mean, that was his issue, was he was addicted to the social media. So he's got to be at least glancing over at these little ops his bears are doing. He has to have some knowledge, I think. But of course, he has to play that part. Just like with Johnny, he said, "What do you say?" that part. If I give the word, oh, I don't want that. But if I ever give the word, so he knows what's going on.
Yeah, Johnny, who is in the chat, by the way, says he plays dumb, and I mean, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Who knows though? It seems like Owen is blasted out of his mind half the time on turpentine now. So, had you started so when did you start making the documentary, actually? Because I know that some stuff happened in the midst of kind of making it. I think from what I heard, the turpentine thing happened while you were making it, but I could be incorrect on that.
Well, with these guys is so much crap happens so fast, especially with Owen. It's very hard to keep track of. So a lot of stuff happened while I was making these documentaries. I believe I started the Teddy one in about, I think it was January. I think it was because it takes me about a month to do these. I think I started in January and I finished Teddy's in February. I might be a bit off, but so that was right after the swatting. That was right after the bear apocalypse, and then I took about a week off and I started the Owen one. So the Owen one, I released it at the end of March. So I was making it, all of March, the last part of February. And that is when the turpentine happened. I know there were some other crazy things that I had to stick in there, but yeah, it's that was probably the main challenge, was just keeping up with the shenanigans, the unauthorized cult shenanigans.
Yeah, which, I mean, as far as we know, it's May and they still don't have a network or a platform up yet. But it still exists out there, so they haven't called it quits yet. And if you ever wanted to do a part 3 or something, it could be like still waiting for unauthorized or something like that. So,
as far as I know, the last time I checked, Owen's videos still weren't there. So, I mean, they weren't there at all. I've heard people say that they can't access them, but I haven't been able to.
Yeah.
So that's a big goose egg there for old Teddy and the unauthorized grifters.
Yeah. How has the reaction been towards your documentary, both positive and negative? Do you get lots of messages from people who are clearly bears, or what was the reaction from people?
There was a few bear comments, not as much as I was expecting, but overall the response was fairly positive. It was well received. I was happy with that. I really wanted, at the end of the day, I just wanted to make people laugh. I mean, those two clowns make me laugh, greatly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to pass that. I wanted to pass that joy on to people.
Well, you actually did something which is pretty hard to do, which is you actually made both Owen and Vox kind of funny. Not not in the way that they were expecting, but I mean, if they want to, they should actually, kind of dig into this and actually come out and support you because, now their relevance is dropping off even further because of this.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, man, is that it's like you said, they take themselves so seriously. They could probably diffuse most of the criticism if they would just realize how silly they are and just roll with it. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm checking in the chat, and apparently Johnny says that Owen talked to Vince Vaughn yesterday, and he's on cloud nine about it. So, so breaking news, you heard it here first. Vince Vaughn is joining unauthorized.
Oh my
So, yeah,
they're gonna restart Sullivan and Son, I guess.
probably not. Well, what else does Owen? I mean, Owen. I guess the one advantage Owen has is, he's been streaming from home longer than any of these other people that are doing it now because of quarantine, and so I guess he could get back in with Hollywood because of that. So.
Well, he quarantined himself from reality long ago, but
Yeah.
I don't know what Owen's long game is, man. I don't think he has one.
No, well, believe me, I don't think he knows what his long game is. But I will tell you this, I think for better for worse, that wasn't the last documentary. I think he is going to do something again at some point. It might not be, as bad as the gummy thing, but he'll do something equally absurd that will warrant more investigations, I guess, into his nonsense.
Yeah, and it'll probably have to wait till then. I know there's going to be a part 3 eventually, but that's not going to be the next thing I do. I had something planned for Teddy. I had a little addendum for Teddy, but I put that on the shelf for now. So I'm moving on to other things.
So when you say you're moving on to other things, do you mean documentary wise or just stream wise or content wise in general? What's your future look like?
There's a few couple things. The most immediate project is going to be the next documentary. And I've already decided what that's going to be. It's kind of in the same. Actually, it's pretty closely related to our good unauthorized buddies, and this is breaking on your show, Sam.
Oh, really?
I've only shared this with the inner circle, the inner gammas. But this is the first time I'm making it known publicly. But I am doing another documentary. And it's going to be in the unauthorized sphere of influence. It's going to be on good old Mike Cernovich.
I was actually going to ask about that because there's that poster I think that you made or someone made for you of Cernovich, Owen, and Teddy all together. Who?
Oh yeah.
Cernovich is actually someone who I briefly dived into a bit when I thought he was serious, and then I dug more into his past, and I kind of thought, well, this guy is one of these pickup artist, guys. So he's another weird one. So
Yeah, yeah. But I think that one will be very interesting. I started looking into the man, and yeah, I can't even express it right now. It's just it's so much craziness.
well, Mike Cernovich actually, I was never like in his circle of spirit of influence or anything. Thank goodness. But there was one time where I was watching one of Mike's streams, and this was after the 2016 election when Trump bombed uh, one of the Syrian runaways, and Cernovich was a pretty pro-Trump guy, if you remember in 2016, but afterwards, when Trump did the whole Syria thing, Cernovich went off on like a 3-hour Periscope rant about how Trump betrayed us all, and he's part of the new world order, and Jones and Alex Jones and everyone else. If you still support him, you're a fake, and you don't care about America. And he went off on like a 3-hour rant, and I just simply said something like, "So you would have preferred that Hillary win?" And he was just like, I don't need that type of back talk from the he didn't say gamma, but whatever, but he might but like, oh, he called me a, so cuck is his equivalent of gamma. If you don't agree with him, you're just a cuckold. So at least that was what he called me and a few other people. And I mean his beef with I don't know if you know who Lee Stranahan is, but Lee Stranahan is actually one of the reporters who used to work with Andrew Breitbart when he was alive, and he saw Cernovich coming from like a mile away. So they've had a few interesting beefs that you might want to look up. So.
All right, man. Yeah, right on. Yeah, he might have called you a gamma. He uses that. He uses that language. And that's the thing about all of this mess, Sam. They're all connected. All of these guys are, in one way or another, connected. And I don't know who sits at the top of that pyramid scheme, but my bet is on good old Teddy. But they're all friends. They all are all business partners. They have business relations with each other. So it's going to be It's going to be in the same vein. Just because of the associations.
I think what they do is they take turns like on the throne, and then inadvertently they all end up fighting amongst each other and then knock each other off the throne, kind of. But then they just take turns getting on the throne and sitting on it and being the de facto leader of their group. So, and that's what's so funny too is Vox seems to think that there's like a gamma hierarchy, but the thing of it is we all do like our own thing, supposedly. In fact, there are people who now get pissed when I don't mention Owen or Teddy for a prolonged period of time. It's almost like they want me to cover him. So. And I'm sure you can get pigeonholed doing that type of stuff, but it's just like we were saying earlier. It's just so interesting. It's so entertaining. I know what it is. It's just the insanity is fun to laugh at for the most part, but I don't need to tell you that. Yeah. Well, I also I explained to a friend of mine in real life. It's like watching the Kardashians, but instead of it being scripted like the Kardashians, it's a train wreck that's happening in real time. And that's what makes it so funny to watch and laugh
I've
at these
I've
people.
heard that I've heard that analogy before. I've heard somebody describe Owen's live stream as keeping up with Kardashians for men. So
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and what's even more interesting now is the fact that Owen seems to be influencing kids now. People under 18, which I think is a little, uh, you know, I wouldn't say scary, but it's certainly interesting that now kids are watching Owen. It's like why he's not even the most entertaining YouTuber that you could be basing stuff off of.
I don't see how he would appeal to any child, but more what is disturbing is that the parents let their children watch Owen. It's Owen is horrible. I mean, just the language and the concept. And I'm not a prude, Sam. Okay, but
Neither am I.
but it's horrible. I mean, who the hell is letting their children watch this grown ass man talk about anuses and sodomy and Mr. Pumping and what is the other one, squirt and all that? Gross, man.
I was just I was watching him a Milker Nation video, and it's one of the compilations that Milker Nation did where Owen is is making like is making like mas- is making like masturbation noises, and I literally had to turn the volume down so that people didn't think I was watching porn or anything, because Owen streams can for whatever reason they can get pretty raunchy for stuff on D Live and all of that. So
Well, that's another one of the mysteries, man. I don't think anybody's been able to prove it yet, but that's one of the big rumors is that he was courted by D Live, and that's because I'm sure you heard about the whole controversy about whether his channel was deleted or not. I think the main channel was deleted, but it looked like he hid the first backup channel. So the theory is that he hid that channel as a way to make it look like he was completely nuked off of YouTube. But he had already had some kind of endorsement deal with D Live, and that's why he wound up over there. So that's one of those things, for someone to look into.
yeah, I've only used D Live once. I mean, I don't really know that much about the platform other than the fact that PewDiePie, I guess, is like the big, star behind that. And like, I'm not even that much of a gamer. I game a little bit, but I only know PewDiePie really through South Park and memes. So, which I'm kind of surprised that Owen hasn't become a South Park feature yet. I feel like that's going to be in his future at some point. So
Yeah, I think they're really missing out on not covering Owen. I think I've thought the same thing too, man. It would fit in perfectly.
yeah. So yeah. So you've got the Cernovich documentary coming. So that's that's interesting. I'm sure that after this you and I are both going to get Cernovich's Gorilla Mindset fans
Yeah, there was, and here's the thing. I kind of had been dropping hints that was going to be my next target over on my on my subreddit, my Gamma Secret King subreddit. What did I do? What did we do? Oh, we started talking about Cernovich, and this man is such a megalomaniac. I guess he has alerts set for whenever anybody mentions his name on the internet.
Of
So
course he does.
yeah, well, yeah. That's what they do. So anyway, he caught wind of that, and he actually tweeted about. I thank Johnny Arcade. That's the only way I found out. Johnny noticed it. Cernovich tweet about it. So anyway, I went on the sub that night, and there was like 166 people on. It's a small sub. I just started it. I think at that time there was like 50 people, and it's very unusual to have 166 people show up just at all at once. So he knows we're looking at him. He knows that I'm sure they figured out something's coming. But yeah, I mean, you'll we'll start hearing more the closer it gets.
I'm sure. And just like Teddy, he's an ultra scary lawyer guy dude. So I'm sure at some point he'll threaten to sue you something like that. So
I hope so.
so um beyond the documentary stuff, you mentioned you do some blog stuff. Are you still doing that currently, or has this documentary thing kind of taken up most of your time now?
Yeah, it kind of has. I think that's what I'm going to focus on going forward. Like I said, because it's what I've always wanted to do, and it's just I have a whole lot of fun doing it. As far as the vlogs, I like doing that too, and I think I had some important things to say. So I'm considering possibly keeping that up on Patreon or Subscribestar. I know going forward with the Cernovich project that I'm going to be doing behind the scenes videos for that on those platforms. So those are some things to look out for moving forward.
Yeah, I certainly think that the documentaries have, they've certainly made me, laugh in terms of, just your commentary style and everything. Just kind of talking shop, getting into kind of some nerdy stuff. What do you use to produce the documentaries and whatnot?
Man, I do things on the cheap. I'm not a big tech guy for one thing, but I use Shotcut for video editing, and I like it. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of been able to do a lot of good things with it. I just use my laptop, man, for the most part.
Yeah.
I just use laptop mic. I use my laptop camera when necessary. And really, that's about it. Everything. It's all. I'm an old school guy, man. So it's all. Anything I have to do, it's practical effects.
Yeah.
I don't have any software. I did a lot of voices in the in both of the documentaries. That was just me, man. There was no computer voice. Some people thought there was a computer voice. I just let me give you a good example. When I did in the Teddy documentary, when I did the Vox versus the World, the little sidebars.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, I really like doing those, man. And it was all I did was to get that old timey effect. I just cut my hands like that, So if I can get away doing stuff like that, I mean, hell, man, it's better than. It's more fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you've got a good voice for old school. Well, I was just wondering because I am just now myself starting to get into video editing, partially to edit some clips and whatnot. But I'm always curious what people use tools they use for this, content creation, which I think it's great that, you're just doing it with what you have. So that's, some of those raw, documentaries seem to be the best.
Yeah, it's guerrilla style.
Yeah.
But I would recommend, if that's something you're interested in doing, I would recommend Shotcut. It's like a good, entry level thing, and it's got a lot of features, and it's real easy to learn.
Yeah. Well, I've been using iMovie for some of my stuff, and I actually do have Final Cut since I'm on a Mac, and I've been learning that kind of in my spare time here as well. But yeah, I think the whole documentary thing is starting to take off again, with, as you said, this whole locale thing. And I think it's also good because it's not getting as censored as some of these other streams are and whatnot by YouTube. I think that's the other interesting thing. So.
And that seems to be, for the most part, that seems to be the case, Sam. I think you're right about that. It might be, it might be anything. I thought I would get some kind of heat for one thing, for Owen's language. I thought that might, catch me some heat. Also the stuff with him spanking that guy on the ass, I thought that might get flagged or something, but
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, sometimes you gotta, and I feel for a lot of these guys, that are getting their content taken down, getting strikes. A lot of those guys I'm real friendly with. You mentioned Milker Nation earlier. Man, I love that guy's work. I watch, he has and he's gotten hit a lot recently. Johnny too, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's one of those things. Sometimes you get lucky. I know for my part, like with the documentaries, I tag them as education. So I don't know if there's a bit more leeway with that.
well, they certainly are educational, and it's kind of like edutainment, I guess, would be the best way of putting it. Yeah, and as far as going back to the Owen documentary, I think it's also interesting how a lot of the information that you put out there was actually new, even to those of us who, kind of were there when all this stuff went down. Like, for instance, when you interviewed that comedian, that had that experience with Owen, in that club, none of us had even ever heard that story, or even knew where to look. So, did that guy reach out to you, or how did that come about? Obviously, I know you can't disclose all the details, but that one was particularly interesting.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. That was an interesting story. I reached out to him actually. And the reason I did that was because I got a tip through Reddit, through one of my gammas sent me an anonymous tip, and they said, hey, there's this guy you need to there's this crazy story about him, you need to look him up and talk to him, and I did, and I thank him, the anonymous comic. But yeah, he had a story to tell, and I want to tell you, Sam, he's probably not the only one, if we're being honest, with that story.
I can only imagine the stories that some more well-known comics have of Owen, as well. I've heard. The Bears have been attacking Joey Diaz now for months and. For months and months and months. Like, I'll go on to Joey's Instagram just because I'm a fan of his, and I'll see like one of his videos, and I'll scroll down, and there's always some guy with like a bear emoji or a girl saying like, you poisoned Owen Benjamin or something like that. Why did you do that? And it's like, no, the dude just couldn't handle his weed at all. So happens to all of us at times. So
I cast a pretty wide net, man. I didn't think to contact Joey, but I did reach out to Rogan. I reached out to Sam Tripoli. They never got back to me, which I can understand. I tried to get in touch with Owen's father, with J.K. Smith, and I thought maybe he might talk, but he never got back to me either. But there was a lot. I guess I wanted to have more material than I needed than less, and I certainly had that. There was a lot I had to leave out.
yeah, I mean, you did a pretty good job on the documentary, and I suppose if you are going to make a sequel, some of that stuff could always be added back in. Like I said though, Owen tends to he tends to cycle where he'll do something really extreme, and then he'll kind of fizzle out for a bit, and then he'll do it. My theory is that Owen does a lot of this stuff for attention now.
I think so. I think you're right on that. But his behavioral patterns are really very close to a damn drug addict, man. I mean, when you talk about like those highs and lows and these manic outburst moments followed by a lull, I mean, he's acting like a damn meth head. I mean, so I'm not allegedly. Let's say that. Let's put it that way. I'm not trying to slander him or anything, but man, and that my background is pretty rough, man. So I recognize that type of behavior in people. So I think that might have a bit to do with it.
Yeah, well, I remember you sharing that in Davy's stream, and I didn't want to ask about that unless you're willing to go into it, but
I'm an open book, man.
I guess that's kind of the other thing of what got you. You mentioned in your Davy interview, and I know that not everyone in my audience has had the chance to watch that yet, but you mentioned that your past was kind of what got you into, I guess, content creation in the first place. So would you mind explaining a bit more about that and kind of how it motivated you? Because I think that your story is kind of inspirational in that sense. So.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. I was pretty. I was a bad addict, man, for many years. And it sounds kind of hokey, but one of the things, well, I wouldn't say it was the primary cause, but it might have. There's a little bit of correlation. It might just be a coincidence. But I started watching stuff like the conspiracy videos. Right around in the last year, I was using heavily, and that made me realize, hey man, the world's not what I think it is, or it's not conducive for me to keep going down this path. So I got into those type of videos, and it's funny that Owen kind of has that story too, where he says the conspiracy videos got him from stop jerking off or something.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's not like that at all. But it's a little bit similar. So I started getting into that, and I thought, man, I need to help be a part of the solution. I need to share my experiences. Share if people are going through a rough patch the way I did. I can I can at least talk to them. I can share my experiences. I can help point them in the right direction. So after I got a year or two is when I started doing my channel. And like I said, I just started doing the vlogs. I started my faith is one of the things that helped me get through all that. Mm-hmm. So I would talk about faith. I talked about like I said, politics, because that's real. I mean, I've lived I'm a relatively young man, but I've lived a pretty full life, man. I've lived several lifetimes.
Yeah, same here.
Another part of my background is journalism. I've always been a writer. I've been primarily a columnist. So I've always been an opinion guy. I've always wanted to share my opinion with people. So that's kind of what the vlogs were too, just political commentary, columns in video form, and just sharing life experiences. So that's what it's all about, man, for me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I started, too. I'm 25, so I think, you and I are maybe a few years difference in age, but, that's kind of my background, too. I got into politics at a relatively early age, too, probably like around the time when I was, 14, around the 2008 election, and that was around the time when a lot of my peers just got enamored with Obama for no apparent reason whatsoever, other than the fact that he was, African American, and also more than that, the fact that he was like the first celebrity kind of social media politician. So I just thought, well, let's look into the other side. So I kind of got into the right, into kind of more of the conservative spectrum, and I had a show on internet radio for a couple of years, and then in 2012, that was kind of when YouTube started to take off as a streaming platform. So I started over there, got a couple views there, but I didn't really take off until like late 2012 when I interviewed Ben Shapiro, and then I would say that I was pretty, I wouldn't say I was like ultra right wing. I've never been like ultra right wing, but I've always been more conservative, really up until, I guess, the past year or two, like I said, with Owen and a lot of these grifters who have hijacked kind of the conservative movement. So now it's interesting because I'm not apolitical. I just kind of feel like everything else has moved from where I was initially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, man. It does. I think you're right. That's an important part of it too. I think since I was into politics young also. So, and my family's always been conservative. And like I said, we were talking about this earlier, but nowadays I'm more beyond anything. I don't really pay attention too much.
Yeah.
I don't care about left or right anymore. But having those sympathies, those right-leaning sympathies, I think is one of the things that sends off those alarm bells when it comes to these grifters. Yeah. To me, that's what they are. They're interlopers in the right wing, and it's a natural reaction to kind of want to kick them back out where they belong. I think that's a major part of it for many of us that keep an eye on these guys.
Yeah, well, and I think the fact too, someone actually brought this up I think it was either in one of Davy Crocco's streams, or maybe someone said it here in one of my streams, but someone in the chat like a few weeks ago had a great comment that now it seems like every, kind of right, of center stream is like almost like an NPR donation drive, because they're just constantly saying, go to my Streamlabs and, chip in money, or else, you won't, you're not standing up for liberty or whatever. Whereas I'm like, hey, I have Streamlabs. If you want to donate at the beginning of the, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, If you want to donate, cool. If not, that's fine too.
If you want to donate, cool. If not, that's fine too. Yeah, and that's, to me, that's fine. I think the grift component is, like you just mentioned, if there's some type of ultimatum, the freedom of this country depends on you donating to me. That's usually how these guys play it. Show your true colors, your true conservative colors, and help out this whatever the hell they got, book or podcast or whatever. But I mean, I do the same. I've always had my PayPal and my whatnots, and they're there if people want to check them out. If not, I'm not going to push it. I kind of have that thing about me where I don't hit people up, but they're always there if people's interested. I'm not going to force anybody. It's the fate of the U.S. Constitution doesn't depend on somebody giving me money or not.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I think more than that, I think, taking a break from some of this stuff is, good too, because I think one of the things that happens with, a lot of people, I think it happened with Owen in particular, was you start to dive into some of this stuff, and I think eventually, Owen started diving into conspiracy videos, and he just went down a rabbit hole where, he went crazy because it was information overload. And I mean, I know a lot of people like that, in my real life, who have gotten on these conspiracy, thought trains, and then they end up going crazy because they think the whole world is out to get them. So.
Yeah. And you never know how much of that is underlying mental illness. I think, Owen is a hard case though. I don't know if it was necessarily the conspiracies that got him that way. For one thing, I think he was always just an asshole.
Yeah.
I don't know if he uses the conspiracy thing as an excuse, or how much of that stuff he actually believes. There's a whole component here we don't know. There's always that conjecture that it's all an act for him. I don't believe that so much, but there has to be parts of it that he plays up for, like you said, attention or donations or whatever the case might be.
I think from my experience with Owen, I think a big thing that broke him was the whole Nimmer thing. I think when it was revealed that Eric Nimmer was a fraud, I think that broke something in Owen, because for whatever reason he was kind of, I don't know why, but he was fixated on helping Nimmer for whatever reason, and then when that turned out to be a fraudulent thing, he went crazy. So, but who knows?
That's what I've heard, and I think a lot of it did come from that. Go ahead.
There's any number of things that could have driven him crazy. So I mean, that's the other interesting thing that I like about the documentary you did too, was you made it funny, but it's also kind of a cautionary tale of be careful what you dive into, otherwise you might end up like this guy. So.
Well, there definitely was a serious component, Sam. I mean, the theme of both of them, because they're meant to be part one and part two. They're meant to be a part of each other. And the theme was the cult. They both have it. They both, Teddy and Owen, they both have their own respective cults. And I think that is the cautionary tale is, I mean, just watch what you support. pour. Watch what you give your heart to. I mean, that's what the sad part is these people are fully invested in these cults. I mean, to the point of we were talking about earlier, death threats, doxing, all kinds of other gay ops that they do.
Yeah, the fact that they're intermarrying in the cult too. You know that story with the Penelope person, the ex-bear, which I don't really remember her either. I don't think she was any of the. I don't remember her in any of the bear discords I was in at the time, but that was interesting too, and I mean that kind of happened with I shouldn't even say his name, but Alan Powell's arch nemesis. Actually wound up getting married to one of the lady bears. So.
Yeah, and she now her that was another one of my favorite parts was that story, Persephone's story.
Right.
And there is a lot of you could draw a lot of parallels between they that shall not be named and her story. But what I think what really struck me about her story was that that could happen to anybody, and it has happened many times over the internet. But just the fact that it happened in Owen's cult speaks volumes. Because these are supposedly this is his flock. Supposedly these are the people that he cares about and that he loves so much, but he's not, policing their time. He's not that that's necessarily his responsibility, but he's got a lot of shady characters in there that he doesn't do anything about. And if he is the big man leader that he makes himself out to be, he should be protecting these damn women.
Yeah. Well, he made some bizarre remark that early on when before it actually became a cult, that one of the reasons why it was a cult was because he didn't want to sleep with the women. But now I'm starting to wonder if I'm not saying he has, but I'm sure maybe the thought has crossed his mind maybe once or twice. I don't know though. That's just purely conjecture.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't have any details on that. But I mean, I don't know how much he wants to sleep with the women when he's trying to make out with male comics on stage. So.
Well, that's true too. Is all of his references to porn too that he's made there. It's all references to gay porn as well. So I'm not sure if the guys in the cult are necessarily.
They better watch their backs, man.
Yeah. So. I mean, I know. I mean, I have gay friends who aren't even that obsessed with gay marriage. Let me just put it this way: even though Owen is definitely allegedly gay. What?
That'll work for me, man. I don't. That's the crazy, the damnedest thing about it, man. That was in the documentary too. I really wanted to show that. I mean, I don't know one way or the other, but I have a pretty good feeling which way he swings. And I really wanted to show that with that chapter I had. I think it was called Sodomy. And I mean, you could pick any Owen live stream. You watch it for a matter of minutes, and there's gonna be references to some pretty gross things, man.
Honestly, I am tempted to start an Owen Benjamin Clips channel on Pornhub. Not where he's doing anything like pornographic, but just where he's doing his regular streams and making those and making like the groaning noise that he makes because like I said, if you don't have the volume turned down on your computer, someone could walk by and think that you're watching something else. So uh so
Yeah, it's gross, man. There was I don't know if you want to talk about that. We started talking about it earlier, the children watching,
yeah.
and that's the big thing. Well, that's one of the, there's the Owen cycle. That's the newest thing that's sticking out now, is that whole cringe panda thing. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not.
Yeah,
But
I'm okay with talking about that. And what I was just going to say with that, because I know that some people have actually brought up the cringe panda thing to me. Like I mentioned, when I started doing political commentary, I was 14, and I know I'm gonna sound like an old man here, but it was different in my day when when I was a teenager than it is now. YouTube when I was a teenager was a repository for cat videos at the time, and that was it. There weren't all these streamers, and so I mean back then I had like a podcast, I think, on like one of the free platforms, and that was it. I don't think Twitter was just starting out too. So it certainly wasn't as big now, and I mean the other kind of teenage conservatives and I that were doing it, we weren't really trying to grift on to any older conservatives. We were just making content for each other and our friends. Basically, there wasn't a whole a whole grifting, and that's kind of what's different now. Is the cringe hand. I don't want to take anything away from her, in terms of rage, but it's definitely a different world out there now, and it also
yeah,
is a little weird to me when I hear like a 14-year-old wanting to go after like pedophiles and stuff like that on the internet. So
yeah, it's. I guess, I mean, that's true what you say. You don't want to take away from somebody's age. There's a lot of smart kids out there. Um, I don't know if these kids are it, but I think the big problem with her is how influenced she is by Owen. I was watching a clip of her earlier. Somebody had put it up on Reddit. Her using all his phrases. What was she saying? Send me gravel for my babble. I think she freaking refers to guys as squirt boys. She shouldn't be talking about stuff. I mean, I know we probably said worse when we were kids, but you don't want to promote that. You don't want to see it when you get to be, older like us. You don't want to see kids talking about squirt. You definitely don't want to encourage them to do so.
yeah, I mean, my friends and I in high school, we made crass jokes amongst ourselves, but we weren't looking to go to the internet and post any of that stuff, and
Yeah.
we certainly weren't asking older people to donate to our, well, I mean, back then Patreon and all these platforms didn't even exist. So again, grifting at an early age,
Yeah.
it's just weird.
It's becoming a career. I mean, grifting is pretty old. People have been grifting for a long time, but as far as looking to do stuff like that as a career, I think that's relatively new, at least in this current iteration, this digital iteration.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, Johnny says a 15-year-old girl calling men squirt boys. Shaking my head. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the only reaction. Soph is another one. Soph is another one who's actually on Gavin McGinnis's platform, and one of her videos, she was doing this like whole lecture thing on why it's bad for men to masturbate. And here I am thinking, why is a 14-year-old even talking about that? One, B, why is she going to lecture, me, a full-grown adult, on masturbation? It's like, yeah, kid, I'm really going to listen to you about that. So.
And that's I know I've heard people talking about this, but they complain, they sling mud at the other side when it's somebody like David Hogg or Greta doing stuff like that. Yet it's acceptable, when our side does it. I'm not a big fan of double standards for one thing, but I think it's bad on both sides. I never watch Soph. I keep away from a lot of things, intentionally.
Yeah.
And that's one of them, that type. I mean, yeah, man, I'm not going to take advice from teenagers. So
no,
for one thing, that's that to begin with. So I don't have any reason to watch these people.
Yeah.
And I think the ones who do, not everybody, I'm not trying to smear anybody in general, but there's a lot of creeps out there. There's a lot of the people who are attracted to that type of content tend to be people that are on watch lists.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even some of my older streams from when I was, a teenager, granted most of them are in, audio form, but I go back and listen to some of my older podcasts, and I mean, some of them are, are good considering what age I was, but some of them are also, just really kind of like, I never said anything like really bad, but just because I was a teenager and I didn't know as much then, that they were cringy. So and that's part of the experience of growing up. But you learn stuff over the year, and so what I said even 5 years ago when I was 20 is different than what is kind of changed in some ways. Compared to now. So.
Oh yeah, man.
And that's
and I want to bring it back to our initial topic, because I don't want to make it look like I'm picking on these girls, but I think the main issue is who the panda girl. Who is she influenced by? And if she's influenced by somebody as insane as Owen, well, that's pretty damn concerning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, and I mean, that's the other thing is Owen said that, he kind of disavows her, which I guess is good, but part of me also has to wonder maybe if that's because she's a girl, and because the other thing that I've also noticed with Owen is he talks a lot about masculinity and how we need to, raise young men, properly. But I rarely ever hear him, talking about like raising a daughter or anything like that, which, I think that's partially only because he has sons, but, hey, if you're a thought leader, don't you want to be, teaching, prospective parents how to be good parents to both, sexes?
Yeah, and that should show you right there what he's really interested in. He's not. I don't. As much as he pushes that about trying to teach people how to live traditionally and off the land and all that, he offers very few lessons. I think at one time he was supposed to teach people how to grow crops and stuff like that. But he talks about that's supposed to be his whole thing, right? I mean, like you said, thought leader. But what are his thoughts? It's all anus and ween. I mean, there's no substance there. It's all garbage.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, the substance of Owen's the substance of Owen's lectures are all onion skits from 15 years ago. So
Yeah.
and
But
he can't even know.
there's no.
He can't
Go
even,
ahead, Sam.
Oh, I was gonna say he can't even do those well. So
Yeah. Well, he's a horrible comedian for one thing. There's no talking about raising daughters or whatever. He and this is another trait that he either acquired or has always shared with men like Teddy, who doesn't believe women should vote, and Cernovich, who we won't get right now. We won't get into his track record with women, but it's that I was saying this the other day. I'm not the type of man who throws around the label misogynist, but these guys, these unauthorized grifters are misogynist to the core. So Owen doesn't care how your daughter's raised. Owen doesn't care what your wife is doing as long as she's, working the farm. So that really is not his concern. As far as him banning Cringe Panda, I think he saw that partly as being a hot potato that he wanted to get rid of. But at the same time, in my opinion, the larger part was that he was jealous of her.
yeah,
I think he was jealous of her following and just outright dismissed her.
but what I'm also saying too, because I agree with you on that. But what I'm saying too is, I don't think Owen would have been so dismissive of her if Cringe Panda were like a 14-year-old boy. I'm not saying anything that like, Owen, I'm not saying Owen's a predator or anything like that, so don't, read into that, but I certainly think that because Owen is so overly pro-male, I think that he would be like, yo, check out this, 14-year-old guy's stream, he's crushing, or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's precedent for that. I mean, he supported Fuentes at first. And, Fuentes was not, I think he might have still been a teenager when Owen first started supporting him. But yeah, so, I mean, there's that. You're right on that. I mean, he supported Fuentes at least for a little while.
yeah, but I mean, I think Fuentes, to be fair, and I'm not the biggest, Nick Fuentes fan. I don't hate the guy, but I don't really, that's kind of a whole nother subject. But to be fair, I think Nick's audience was kind of there even before Owen was, around, and I think from what I read during that situation, Owen was hoping to kind of glom on to whatever Nick was doing, and then when Nick didn't want Owen around, that was when you got the whole, Nick still sucks on his mommy's, titties and whatnot.
The milkers.
Yeah. Which is weird coming from a guy who used to brag that he breastfed until he was like 7 or something like that. So
Yeah. It's all projection with these guys at the end of the day, and that's what they accuse everybody else of. But the situation with Fuentes was kind of different, and I'm not a big Fuentes guy myself, but he'll always be a hero in my book for the way he dealt with Teddy and Owen.
Yeah. Calling Teddy bald too because you know that sticks in Teddy's craw. So him being called bald. So Johnny made another good comment. I actually posted this one in the stream. Owen drinks turpentine to get rid of his gay pedo feelings. You can see Owen is very uncomfortable with cringe panned around. Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think that's the case. You know, he seems uncomfortable when there's any talk of, peen or anus, even though he's the one that brings it up. So.
Well, that's interesting that Johnny said that, and like I said, like you, I don't want to speculate too much on things like that, but there's that pattern where, because Owen has said that he was molested as a child, and there's that established pattern of men who were abused as boys going on to repeat the abuse with others. So, I mean, there's that. That could be a bit of support, but I'm not saying that. I don't know, and I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But
No. And Johnny asked, do you think the gay porn on the roommate's laptop was Owen's? I don't know if it was. It might have been the roommate. The roommate might have been gay or whatever, but I don't think it was his dad that was using the roommate's laptop either.
Yeah, I this is gonna sound funny, but I think about that often. But like I said, it's because I listen to every morning when I'm getting ready. I listen to Milker Nation's music videos because they just make me laugh so much. And he has that one where he talks about that. I think it's like a Bee Gees song playing behind Owen talking about his dad. And I think about it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Personally, I think that the porn was Owen. I think Owen was looking at the gay porn, and he just blamed it on his dad. But the story doesn't make any sense to me that it would be his father's.
Yeah.
For one thing, he says that his friend waited like a month to tell him about it. If that happened to any of us, to any of our friends, let's say, I would be right away, hey, man, like as soon as the dad's gone, hey, your freaking dad was looking at gay porn on my computer. But other than that, I mean, so it doesn't make sense that he would wait a whole month to tell Owen about this. The other thing is, I mean, Owen said it was when he was 22, so this is like, what, 20 years ago. At that time, I mean, things are very different technology-wise. But back then, it wasn't like, how easy it is now to check search history. I mean, I don't remember doing stuff like that back in the late 90s. I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't possible. I'm just saying it wasn't a common occurrence. So, and for a month later, I mean, he was checking the search history a month later. It doesn't make the story that the way Owen tells it makes no sense. So I'm one of those that I pointed out in the documentary. This is something that is one of those theories that is not able to be proven. However, I fall on the side that it was Owen's porn. I think it was Owen's search history and not his father's.
Yeah, this actually has me curious too, because you're right, that story doesn't make a lot of sense, and Owen never specifically said that his dad went on Pornhub, but the way he's talking about how his dad looked at porn, I'm kind of assuming that that's what it looked like. But Pornhub didn't start until 2007, according to what I can see here on Google. So, I mean, his dad wasn't, looking at Pornhub or any of those sites.
I can't tell you what the gay porn trends were in the late 90s and early 2000s. But it probably wasn't as easy to find as it is now.
Neither can I. But that's kind of my point. Is like I think if what I remember, you had to torrent like a lot of those things back in the day, and as smart as Owen's dad might have been being a professor, he doesn't seem like the type to use LimeWire or any of those torrent clients.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. So, yeah, that's another story that doesn't add up at all. So, yeah. The Owen saga just never ends.
Yeah, it hasn't ended yet. We'll see where it goes. I mean, he goes on these roller coaster rides. I guess, I don't know, right now I really haven't been watching him at all. I'll catch a clip here and there, but it's just too much for me, man. I can't keep up with him regularly. And my hat's off to those that do and bring us that little bit of entertainment. But as far as I can tell right now, there's not anything too crazy going on. I know his mother was there today, and that should be good for some laughs here. I don't know how long she's going to be here, but that should be entertaining, to say the least.
I know that Owen seemed to be concerned that his mom was going to get coronavirus at some point. He didn't say it, but you could kind of tell the look on his face when talking about corona. He definitely seemed concerned about it.
Yeah, and I didn't want to bring up such macabre topics, but since you did, I think that might be where the story ends, or that might be where the next big spiral comes from. Is when that old lady finally kicks the bucket. So,
well, yeah. I mean, to be fair though, I mean, she's in her. To be fair, she is in her 80s, and oh God, here I am, and honestly, I wish her well. Other than the fact that I mean, she has. I mean, I do feel bad for her if her husband really did yeah. If that story really is true, but I mean, that's the other thing with the whole thing with the dad is obviously it seemed like the dad has some things going on, but that story doesn't seem to really add up either. It's too unbelievable.
Yes.
That such an esteemed professor would be, doing all this and, getting away with it for 30 years without anyone in a town as small as Oswego knowing about it. So.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on the old lady, but I don't personally. I greatly question that whole story. I don't. I mean, I'm not going to give J.K. Smith a complete pass, but I think a lot of it was lies perpetuated by his mother. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that I like I said, not trying to be mean or anything, but I think that old lady is a nut, man, and I think that she passed a lot of that nuttiness onto her son. So.
Well, yeah.
And the poor dad is caught in the middle. I think.
Well, yeah, the lychee league stuff or whatever. Which when I looked up what that actually was, I was like, oh boy. I kind of feel bad for Owen now. Now that I know what what the lychee league is.
Yeah, the
So
Leche League. Yeah, now I've never looked into that much. That's kind of what I'm saying though is I think that I want to say that the mother was running that thing in that particular town. She was at least one of the main chicks, you know. So that might be why in Owens' instance it was so crazy. But I've heard of the Leche League before, and I always just thought it was a support group for breastfeeding mothers. So I don't know how outside of Oswego if they're breastfeeding till 7 or 8 years old. You know, I don't think that's a common thing with those ladies, man.
yeah, well, let's see. Johnny says, "You guys are monsters." Well, well, to be fair, Johnny, you've been around me for 2 years, so you know I have a dark sense of humor. Um, and then if you look at her rate my professor ratings, she sucks. They yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. If you look at the parents rate my professor ratings, the dad is loved by everyone. The mom,
Mhm.
not
Not so much.
not so much, to put it nicely. So
Well, that's the main complaint from those students was her let's say her flightiness, her her absent-mindedness.
yeah, well, oh, and Johnny also said that Owen's going to accuse us both of attempting to murder to murder his mom. Yeah, but the problem with that, Johnny, is I have a rock solid alibi, and for one, I'm not very interested in leaving my current location at this time to go to New York during this time of year, especially with what's going on right now. So yeah, I'd like to see how that murder conspiracy works out. So how what they accuse us of with that. So
If it does get back to Owen, there will be a reference to Gamma Trolls attacking his family. It might come sooner or later. I don't know if you saw on Instagram or Reddit or whatever, but Amy actually uh, started commenting on some of my stuff in on Instagram. So and we'll see if there's any fallout from that. But yeah, that's his old standby, man. Is so and so is attacking my family, or I mean, he said it with his dad. He said it with Johnny. He said it with Alan. It all comes back to harming Owen's family.
yep, even though I have no idea where they live, or well, I mean, other than what he has said with the PO box, but beyond that, I've I don't even really care to look at Owen's property on Google Earth. So
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. He's just crazy.
uh
I
yeah.
mean, and he has a lot of haters, and none of them care enough to go and pay him a visit or anything like that. He's just a damn Looney Tune, man.
He certainly is. Yeah, he's one of the internet's most giving train wrecks, though. I will give him that as kind of a backwards compliment. So he's the reality show that just never stops. So.
He is a locale without peer.
And yeah, and he's a locale that just never refuses to to just whenever you think you've milked him for all he's worth, he just keeps producing new material to be made fun of. So at any rate, though, do you have any questions for me or anything that you'd like to bring up?
Oh man, I think we covered most of it. Just I guess that's just it. Just keep a lookout for some of these new projects coming up. I think what I'm going to do is, because I've said this before, the YouTube channel is more of a hobby. It doesn't it doesn't pay the bills. Let's say that. So I'm not very active on it. And but I think what I'm going to do is as I begin this next project, I think I'm going to clip parts of the documentaries and put them up on my channel. So there's that to look out for. For sure, I've been one, and like I say, it's one of those things you just have to. In my case, at least, I have to make time to get to this type of stuff. But I definitely want to put up the standalone Vox Day versus the World clips.
Yeah, those are great.
And possibly the love letters from the cult. Maybe a couple of other ones.
Love letters from the cult are good. You could actually do a whole series on those continuously, just because they just keep. I mean, the love letters to the cult are good. I actually thought about doing a segment where I read some of my hate mail from the Bears, just because that can be pretty entertaining as well. So.
I would like to hear that sometime.
So.
Yeah, well, the love letters could be a series. Ted's feuds could be a never-ending series. But I'm kind of in that position where I don't want to be pigeonholed as an Owen guy.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna change things up for the time. But I don't want to be too dry as far as content goes on my channel. So I'm gonna put a few little things like that up while I'm working on the Cernovich one. And like I said, also there's gonna be more. I have the full interviews from Johnny. I don't have Johnny's up yet, but I have Davies and Chuck Boris's interviews up on my Patreon and Subscribestar. And I'm hope to have all the interviews up soon. But other than that, I'm going to probably continue the vlogs if anybody's interested in that, and behind the scenes on the new documentary at Patreon and Subscribestar.
So you have the vlogs and the behind the scenes exclusively on your Subscribestar, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Well, yeah, the behind the scenes and the interviews from the documentary are on Patreon and Subscribestar.
Interesting.
But I'm saying I'm considering continuing my vlogs on those platforms.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting plan. I was gonna say I might sound like a bit like Joe Rogan here, but have you ever thought about starting a podcast? You certainly have the voice for it.
And I've always been interested in radio. I listened to AM radio for many, many years. Yeah, that's definitely an interest of mine. It's just something to add to the list. Right now, I've got so much going on. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to look into that sooner or later.
Sure. So, and then, last but not least, what are your thoughts on this whole COVID thing and the current state of the world? So.
Oh man, like I said, I just keep a side eye on all that stuff now.
Yeah.
But that stuff, I was sick of hearing that about that stuff as soon as it first popped up on the news.
Yeah.
So I don't pay much. I'm still working. I'm still going about life normally. Let me put it this way, Sam. I already live like I'm in the 19th century. So it doesn't. There's not too much that can hold me back.
Yeah, well, I think, definitely as far as, I'm concerned, I mean, I haven't really paid much attention to either, other than, it's kind of hard to avoid just because coronavirus news, if you have a smartphone, it pops up in your, notifications
Yeah.
every 5 minutes now. So, if I see something, just like I'll just tangentially scan a headline, but I'm certainly ready for this whole thing to be over. I don't. I'm not going to be Owen and claim that viruses don't exist or that it's all a scam. I definitely think it is real, but I
Yeah.
I definitely also think that maybe some people have reacted too. So
Oh,
yeah.
for sure, man.
So uh so where can we find you? Kind of in conclusion, uh, because you're everywhere, man. So
Yeah, that wasn't part of the plan. I'll tell you that much. I had to set up all these social media accounts just to get it in contact with all these people for the documentaries. But yeah, man, I'm of course I'm at my YouTube channel, Scorpio. Uh, I'm very active on Reddit. I'm there under my Ipse pseudonym, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Inquisitor Ipse. So those are the ones I frequent.
gotcha. And folks, I will post some of those down in the description if you want to share any of those. I'll post those in the podcast description. So anyway, thanks for coming on, Scorpio, and this was a blast, man. I had fun. So thanks for
Yeah,
coming
me too,
on.
Sam.
So
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
and when you're ready to one of the other things I was going to say is I don't know if this was intentional or not, but at least when I had first heard of the Owen documentary, you just dropped it. There wasn't really a release date. You just kind of put it out there, and then I heard about it. So do you think you're gonna have like a release, or are you just gonna drop the Cernovich documentary?
um, the Teddy one, I dropped it out of the blue, basically. But that one, Ted had already been nipping at my ankles, so I was kind of trying to fly under the radar on that one. With the Owen one, I kind of teased it along. I gave frequent updates, and I actually had that one premiered. So, but with this next one, I'll probably do it about the same way. I'll work on it probably about the same rate, and I'll give people plenty of notice. And maybe we can talk about it when it gets closer to that day.
Yeah, well you're always welcome on here. So it's been great chatting with you, man. So thanks for coming on.
Right on, Sam. Thank you.
So, all right, folks, and that'll do it for tonight's show. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, and yeah, it's been great talking with Inquisitor Ipsy, Scorpio. Great guy, real laid back. We covered a lot of topics. Mainly, we talked a lot about Owen. So, for those of you who complain, oh, Sam, you don't talk about Owen anymore, or, oh, Sam, you don't talk politics enough anymore, I miss that stuff. Well, you got 2 full hours of it tonight, folks, or just about. So, I had fun. It seems like Inquisitor Ipsy, he had a blast too, and Yeah, Johnny, I know that I'm horrible for trying to murder Owen's mom, but just remember that you tried to poison his kids with fake gummies, allegedly. So nah, I'm not out to do anyone harm. At the most, folks, uh, I will admit to having a dark sense of humor. Um, After all, I did do a review on this channel a few weeks ago on Louis C.K.'s new special. So, um, you know, that's the. I'm really into dark humor. So, oh, and Ricky Gervais too. I I've been watching lots of Ricky Gervais stuff tonight, or lately, I should say. But at any rate, folks, thanks for tuning in. And from all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good night. God bless. And God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy in that order. And I will see you on the next broadcast. So, good night, everyone.